Welcome to the College Football Bros, the podcast with a birthday boy. And now, here are your hosts, Michael, Ryan, and Trey Newman.
Welcome to the College Football Bros podcast. I am Michael Newman, and I'm joined by the brother in Los Angeles.
That is me, Ryan Newman.
And by the other brother in San Diego.
And that's me, Trey Newman. And Michael, you forgot to mention, everyone needs to wish Ryan a happy birthday. It's his birthday this week.
Ooh.
That is right, November 12th.
November 12th.
Right, go to at Ryan F. Newman 1 on Twitter. Wish Ryan a happy birthday. How old you turning?
33. The big double three.
The big double
The
three.
big
That's
double
what they
three.
say.
Double three.
That's what they all say.
The classic. Yeah.
All right. Well, also be sure to follow the podcast on Twitter and Instagram at CFB Bros. Subscribe both on YouTube and your podcast app. It just helps more people find the show. And before we get into our Week 10 recap, Ryan, you said you have something very important to share with the listeners. Better be good.
Yeah, I sure do. I got a haircut, Mike. What do you think?
Wow, big news.
I didn't
Right.
mention it for a reason, Ryan. So
I got a mohawk, so that's the big news.
Yeah, right.
Our sponsor here, guys, MyBookie. So you can go onto mybookie.ag. So whether it's this 2020 has been a weird year. You got college football starting late, of course. You had the NBA bubble, UFC Fight Island, college basketball is getting a late start as well. So it's just been weird. Baseball was in kind of a unique situation. So you need a sports book with offers unlike any other. You can get some skin in the game with MyBookie, where you get odds boosts, you get lightning deals, you get free bets all season long. And of course, with Turkey Day coming up, I mean, that's the time that you want to get some action. You got some time off. What better time to sit on the front of your couch, watch some sports, have a little skin in the game. It's a great time for it. Whether you're a first-time bettor or you're an experienced player, MyBookie is a great option. They have great value. They also have a full-fledged casino. They get all the games that you can imagine for a casino. So if you want to join, go to mybookie.ag. Use the promo code CFBROS, all caps, and they will match half of your first deposit, right? So if you put in $1,000, put in 1,000, they'll match it up to 500. So join mybookie.com today, or mybookie.ag today, excuse me.
All righty. Let's recap Week 10 quickly. And there is one game that we have to go a little bit in depth on.
Which game are you talking about, Michael? I don't know what you're
I'm talking about UTEP, and I don't remember who UTEP played this weekend, if they did. I know they play UTSA this weekend, but...
I liked the... we kind of hinted at it in our image. If you're watching on YouTube, I liked Sarah's image with the wristband. That was a nice touch going with this for this Clemson Notre Dame game. Lots of huddling.
Yeah. So Notre Dame beat Clemson 47-40. That's, of course, the game we're talking about. Game of the year, double overtime. Trey, what went on here?
Yeah, it seesawed back and forth. First drive for the Irish, Williams ripped off a 65-yard touchdown run, and the first half, Notre Dame was up 10. You kind of think it might be too much for Clemson without Trevor Lawrence on the road. But then Clemson, they storm back. They take the lead by 7 with a few minutes left, and that happened just after Ian Book had fumbled into the end zone. Venables actually stripped it out right around the 3 or 4 yard line. And right there, the narrative was kind of set. Notre Dame can't win big games. Ian Book just doesn't have it. But then Book led a clutch, 8-play, 91-yard drive to score the tying touchdown with under 30 seconds to go. And then, of course, like you mentioned, they were able to pull it out in double overtime. But when you break down the game, Uiagalelei for Clemson, he was amazing. 439 yards, most ever for a Notre Dame opponent. But you could really tell in this game, Notre Dame's plan was just to shut down ETN and the rushing attack, which they did. They held Clemson only 34 yards rushing. And even though they gave up all those passing yards for Uiagalelei, their physical defense was one of the reasons why they pulled it out. So, Ryan, what'd you see here?
Yeah, you kind of alluded to it, but I just think the line play by Notre Dame was just kind of what won them the game here. That they've kind of been known for having a great offensive line here for the past few years. That certainly didn't let them down today, or well, not today, but on Saturday. And then D-line.
Wait. Before you say anything else, we need to go to replay review and see what happened with what you had to say.
Yeah, it was a lot of the replay review officials were busy.
That was unlike anything I've ever seen.
It was.
They're like,
very
I understand reviewing some plays, but oh my gosh, it got ridiculous there. But yeah, sorry.
Yeah,
Ryan.
no, I can't stand that when it's like obvious play. It's like, come on now, guys, let's go. But hey, I guess it's better that than the other way around, I suppose. Just
Yeah, when they don't review a play that needs to be
when
reviewed.
they don't review a play at all, it's like, what? Come on.
Mhm.
Well, there was a game that happened not that long ago where I couldn't believe they didn't review it. I think it was an NFL game I was talking about. I think it was like a Eagles Monday night game or something. Yeah. Anyways, the line play though from Notre Dame, just stellar. And also, I kind of said it. I haven't said it, I guess, with a super opinionated tone, but I think Brian Kelly's underrated. I've thought that for a little while now. He went, he had a 4-8 year back in like 2016. And people were kind of like, "Oh, hot seat, we should maybe get rid of him." But the year before they went to the Fiesta Bowl. The year after they won 10 games, finished 11th in the country. I mean, he has been awesome for Notre Dame. If you could remember where he took over, like it's not like Notre Dame was just some high flying program. Weiss struggled towards the end, and Charlie Weiss struggled. I mean, so what he's done has been remarkable in my eyes.
Yeah, and for me, he's really even risen in the last like 2 or 3 years. You know, if you're counting this year as well, because I actually looked back at the first. I don't remember exactly how long he's been there, but if you look at the first, I
think this is 11th year. I think 2010 was his first year.
Okay, so you look at like the first 6 or 7 years, and that national championship. Well, they didn't win it when they got killed by Alabama. That it was kind of the outlier. There was mostly 3+ loss seasons. Of course, one of them was 8 loss. I think you just said.
Yeah.
Still good, still a lot of good years, but the last, like I say, 2.5 here have been excellent.
Yep. And so I'm as far as his coaching resume goes, I'm glad he got this win. Like, just because it's such a huge win, it's probably the biggest win of his career up to this point. I mean, it's a huge knock off a number one team, and it's just as far as his coaching ability, I think I'm glad he gets the credit for this because he's been awesome. Even though Clemson they're not the same team they were last year. I think we can all agree their defense just isn't quite up as quite as good as they were. They're still good. I'm not trying to say that.
Yeah.
But
yeah,
I think they're a little bit back. Well, they've played a couple close games before. I mean, before today, it wasn't just before the Saturday. Notre Dame wasn't their first only outlier, right?
Yeah, Boston College was a
Boston
close
College.
game.
Syracuse was hung with them till the late third quarter. So
yeah,
I'm just saying they're not as dominant.
I will say they were, and in this game in particular, and just the past couple of weeks have been dealing with some key injuries on defense. Of course, Skalski and Tyler Davis.
True,
Mike. Yeah, so they've had some crucial injuries, and obviously Trevor Lawrence. So that matters. Even though Uiagalelei was great,
Uiagalelei has been pretty darn good.
It's you're still without Trevor Lawrence, so might have had some effect. But yeah, so I guess I'm not too worried about Clemson. I know you weren't saying you're worried about them, but
right.
I guess the one thing though,
they're still the favorite to go win the conference.
Obviously, yeah. The offensive line getting dominated like they did. I know Notre Dame really keyed in on the run, but I mean they haven't been able to run the ball super well this year compared to last year. To your point, Ryan. So I guess that's a little bit of a concern when you're talking about a national championship potential run.
Exactly.
But for Notre Dame, yeah, you say it's a huge win, obviously, because we talked about this on our Patreon episode. You can check that out. But we said if Notre Dame wins this game, well, now I'm going to give away the goods right here, but that's okay. They can still make the playoff even with a loss to Clemson in the ACC title.
They would have a very strong case if they lose Clemson. If they get blown out, okay, maybe it's a little different. But they lose a close one to Clemson in the title game. That'd be very hard.
How crazy was the field storming?
Ooh.
Yeah.
I mean, that was a full on. The field was covered. Like that was a normal field storm.
Yeah, that was not good.
That was good. And I'm not even a Corona bro, but that was crazy.
I mean, I think we're all trying to be careful. So
that was a little bit of a letdown. That was whoopsie daisy. I mean, I know they beat number one. It's a great win, but oops. Oops.
All right. What other takeaways from week 10 did you have? We each got to come up with 3 here, Ryan. So what's number 1 for you?
I'm going with just the Georgia Florida game. That one, I mean, I think it just attributes to the fact now that great offense beats great defense nowadays in this day and age. I mean, Florida, obviously they had the better offense, and I kind of alluded to it before the game last week's pod. I was like, I'm just going to go with the better quarterback here. Like, it's the talent gap between Trask and Bennett was just too big. Like, Georgia's a great team. They're still really, really good, but they're so limited at that position that they just can't overcome that deficit, right? So I still think Georgia's got a really good defense. It's just when Georgia's offense couldn't stay on the field, just kept putting them in holes and holes and holes, and it's just hard to kind of.
They had some chances too. There were some receivers that were streaking open that the
quarterback exactly. So it's such a letdown. The defense can't, you can't blame all that on the D. So
especially when the defense,
they weren't at full strength either. So
exactly, that's what I was gonna say.
Yeah. But as far as that QB position goes, I mean, Bennett. Okay, you know what you're gonna get. He's just not. He's the game manager at best, right? D'Wan Mathis is just not the answer at this point of his career yet. Hopefully they give JT Daniels a chance next week or something.
I think his arms fell off or something. He just hasn't been seen.
He might not be healthy yet.
But yeah, I mean, there's really nothing to lose for them at this point, right? You might as well give them a chance because they got 2 losses. They're in the hole. Like, they're for what they had planned for the season. I mean, it's not over, but it's pretty darn close.
I mean, pretty much their aspirations for the season are
pretty much done. I mean, 2 losses, you're pretty much out, and for Florida already, you're 2 games behind.
Yeah, they got to hope for Florida to lose a couple.
Yeah,
times.
Florida though. Hey, my playoff pick, they're back in contention. So that was impressive.
Notre Dame. So,
that's right.
Wow,
Notre Dame too. Yeah.
Well, I had Alabama. So I'm well good.
I think I picked Florida to win it all, actually. So that's a little bold, but hey,
there you go.
They whooped up on Georgia. So
I've got a ticket on Florida to win the SEC, so I wouldn't mind that.
There you go. By the way, Pitts injured, concussion, questionable this coming week. He got hit. I mean, that was a brutal.
That was
brutal hit. That was too bad.
That was Lewis Seen, I think, right? He got kicked out.
Yeah, he's that was bad. But at least Pitts was walked off and he looked okay. But I doubt he plays this week. It just seems far fetched. But even without him, Trask was still amazing. So
All right, I'm gonna go a little more under the radar than Florida, Georgia. San Jose State is having a good turnaround by head coach Brent Brennan. They're now 3-0 in the Mountain West after they just beat one of the Mountain West favorites, San Diego State, on the road. They were a big underdog. 2 years ago, the Spartans were 1-11. Last year, they went 5-7. And like I said, they're now 3-0 and having knocked off a top contender. Transfer Nick Starkel he started the year. He got injured, so Nick Nash actually came in, filled in nicely. He led the team in rushing as well against the Aztecs. They got top 25 votes for the first time since 2012 this week. They probably won't win the Mountain West or anything, but they certainly will be a factor down the stretch. So impressive turnaround.
Yeah, they looked dead in the water a couple of years ago, just as a program. I think I remember one season just we were talking about hot seat coaches, and just by default, we put Brent Brennan there because it's like, how are you going to dig yourself out of this hole? But here he is.
Yeah, that's been impressive.
Okay, so my first takeaway was, I mean, if there was any question last week, which I think there was, as to who the best team going into the season in the Pac-12 is, I think that's kind of been answered. I think it's Oregon, not USC. So Oregon, yeah, Ryan, you're still iffy.
Oregon really didn't dominate that game.
I agree. Stanford moved the ball pretty well. They just shot themselves in the foot every time they got into the red zone. I think Jet Toner was 0 for 4.
Ran out of ink.
Nice.
Yes, he did. Yes, he did. But still, that side of the ball, I'm not as concerned about with Oregon. I know they lost some key pieces in the secondary, but I think the defense will be good. So that one performance, I'm not panicking there. But the offense, I really liked what I saw from them. Tyler Shuck was good with 5 new starters on the offensive line. They were able to run the ball really well. They were really efficient in that game against Stanford. So I still think, I mean, they ended up winning 35-14. I think they played well, whereas USC did not at all. They needed a miracle to beat ASU. They were down 27-14 with 3 minutes left, and ASU's win probability was 99.9% on ESPN.com because USC at that time was facing a 4th and 13, and they end up, the ASU jumped offside, so Keaton Slovis wisely just threw it up into the end zone, and it bounced off one of our receivers' hands into another. So just kind of a crazy play to keep the game alive. We got the onside kick, and then on that drive to win the game, Keaton Slovis converted a 4th and 9 through like a 20-yard touchdown pass.
You scored too quick.
Yeah, might have scored a little too quick, but on 4th and 9, Baker's came the choosers there. So, he threw a great pass to Drake London. Drake London had a big game.
Drake London's legit.
He is. But anyway, my point was there, though, that USC did not look good. The offense for most of the game struggled to move the ball. Defensively, it looked like the same old issues. The linebackers were not tackling very well at all. The run defense was bad. So, I don't know. It just kind of looked like USC's maybe a borderline top 25 team. I know I'm inferring a lot from one game, whereas it looked like Oregon.
Maybe you're underselling ASU a little bit, too.
I guess so. Yeah, their defense definitely played well. Marvin Lewis is come in, and game 1 they look good. I was impressed with the game plan he had against.
He was there last year, just not as the DC, right? So he was kind of like
and Antonio
was
Pierce,
the analyst
DC.
Yeah.
And I mean, it was a 9 a.m. game, first game of the year. ASU, like you're too harsh, I think, on SC right now.
Man, I don't know. I just saw I don't know. That's what I saw. I saw a team that looked to me like a borderline top 25 team, whereas Oregon to me looks like maybe a top 10 team. I mean, we'll see.
Okay, I think you're maybe overselling Oregon here a little bit. If I'm Cal, if I'm UW, I'm encouraged by what I saw on the field. Obviously, they didn't play last week, so I'm encouraged by what I saw from the other teams. Like, okay, we can, Oregon wasn't dominant. USC obviously wasn't. So I think we saw some like, hey, it's up for grabs. That conference is really up for grabs.
Yeah, if anyone can get their COVID situations under control, we'll get to that.
Yeah.
All right. Next takeaway.
All right. My next takeaway. The Big Ten East. Just like, what's going on, man? It's a weird. What is going on in that conference? Indiana is 3-0. They beat Penn State and they beat Michigan, the latter of which they whooped up on pretty good. That game wasn't really even close. They beat the Maize and Blue pretty handily. Maryland is sitting at 2-1 after winning at Penn State. What is going on? Penn State's 0-3.
Whoa.
Yeah. What happened with Penn State there? Like, I mean, that's just ridiculous. And then Michigan's 1-2. The conference is flip flop. Rutgers has got to win, and they host Illinois this week with a legit chance to win a couple games. Like, it just seems like, I mean, other than Ohio State, which that's expected, but everything else seems like out of flux. Like, what's going on here? It's nuts. It's nuts.
It really is. I'm gonna go back to the Pac-12. Nick Rolovich and Wazoo. They should be fun to watch, and it's a great marriage. The Cougs, they were without more than 30 players, including probably their best player, Max Borgi, but still went on the road to Corvallis and beat the Beavers 38-28. True freshman Jaden Delora got the start. If you haven't seen a picture of his hair is next level, like two-toned. But he showed some great flashes of brilliance. I mean, he's only a true freshman. He'll make some mistakes, but he looked the part, and it's encouraging for the Cougs. What's kind of what we're not used to seeing with Wazoo is they actually ran for 229 yards in this game, led by Deion McIntosh. They have the playmakers on the outside, as we know, so they might not, they're not going to win the Pac-12, but I'm going to enjoy watching their shootouts this fall.
Yep. Okay, my next takeaway is that a match not made in heaven would be Utah State and Gary Anderson. At least not in round 2 here, because
round 2 rarely works out, huh? Mac Brown. So far,
true. But anyway, Gary Anderson has been fired. Very quick trigger there, because last year was his first year back. I looked, their season win total before last year was 7, and they ended up winning 7 games. So he basically met expectations. And so it's crazy that 3 games into year 2 here, he's already been fired. But it was a really bad 3 games. They got blown out. They clearly look to be falling off a little bit of a cliff here. So
What did he sabotaged himself? Like his
just
career.
in his career trajectory, you mean?
Why did he just like stop coaching Wisconsin when it's just like the easiest place to win? You just
I
got to
know.
essentially stand there and let the guys run the ball. Like it's just.
And then he
Then he goes to
weirdly
Oregon State.
stepped down at Oregon State kind of in the middle of the year, if I remember right. Something like
Yeah,
that.
it
So,
was. Yeah.
Speaking of Utah State, Matt Wells, he went to Texas Tech, and Texas Tech this past weekend, they were down 9. They have 3 timeouts left. They had a 2nd and 4 at TCU's 19-yard line.
Yeah.
He kicked a field goal, and they missed it. But like, I understand why you're trying to kick the field goal, but not in that situation. There's like over a couple minutes.
If
you
it's
have
fourth
you
down,
only it was 2nd and you only do that if there's like under a minute and you just you
Yeah.
have to get the 2 scores. There was over a couple minutes. What was it? There was over a couple minutes. They had 3 timeouts, and
That
they
is
like
crazy.
it was a terrible call. Like unbelievable. So
yeah, it
Utah
just
State
it's
coaches,
baffling
not so
some of
good.
the decisions out there. Like it was, you had an advantage. You have you're 2nd and short. Like why would you?
Crazy.
Maybe if it was like 2nd and 20 because you just got a huge sack, and you're like, wow, my chances.
Even that,
Even
but-
then, I would say no, but at least I would understand it a little bit more. Like
really
but that's
bad.
just bad. Michael, your turn, right?
That
Or
was
no, my
his.
turn?
It's your turn.
Oh, okay. I got to go to South Carolina here. Will Muschamp. Ooh, man, not looking good. It looks like his time may be coming to an end there. 2 games in a row where they just get beat up on. They got whooped up 48-3 by A&M. Just not competitive in the slightest. Last week they got whooped up, or it might have been 2 weeks ago. I can't remember, but they got blown out by LSU, who was with their backup quarterback. So they are not looking good. They're heading in the wrong direction. They're sitting at 2-4. They do have a few winnable games left, but with the way they're playing, I mean, it seems like they'd be lucky to win one of those. They just are playing so bad. So, I mean, they had a decent win against Auburn like 3 weeks ago, but ever since then, straight down. So it's not looking good there for them.
Yeah, and speaking of coaches in trouble, Les Miles has to be in trouble. I completely understand it's the hardest job in the Big 12 and one of the toughest in the Power 5, but the Jayhawks, they're now 0-7. They haven't covered a game against the spread, so it tells me they're underperforming greatly. The closest game they've had all year was the opener against Coastal Carolina. They lost by 15 at home, and that was when Coastal was working in a true freshman or their freshman quarterback McCall. In his 2 years, he's only beaten 2 FBS teams. There hasn't been an uptick in recruiting, which we kind of alluded to in the offseason. So I'm just not seeing much hope there.
No, not at all.
Well, I got a candidate for some of these Power 5 jobs. I think he's a little bit above Kansas level, but Hugh Freeze.
Wow.
One of my takeaways from this past weekend, I mean, it's kind of been obvious for a while now, but he's going to get a good Power 5 job soon. He took over a Liberty team that was in year 2 in the FBS. Year 1 is his first year there. It takes him to a bowl game, 8-5. And this year they've started out 7-0. They just won at Virginia Tech. Kind of a crazy ending. They attempted I think like a 59-yard field goal, had it blocked for a touchdown. So Virginia Tech wins, but Justin Fuente had called a timeout before the snap. So Liberty was like, all right, maybe we won't kick this field goal. They get a little bit closer and kick a 51-yard field goal to win, and they nail it. So 7-0. They're ranked, and Hugh Freeze is not untouchable. Like, he has that scandal in his past, but been a few years. Some programs.
We've seen some other guys get a job,
that have done worse. So
exactly. Yeah, he could be back next year for sure.
Mm-hmm.
They're good.
All right, let's get to our segment. I am excited about this. I feel like I need a nickname, but I don't want to give myself a nickname. But let's just say I'm very good with the Play Index, College Sports Reference Play Index. So just listeners, you guys, hint, somebody give me a nickname with
Michael the
that.
Nerd.
No, we can workshop it. We don't have to
Oh,
commit to
okay.
one right now.
All
How
right.
But-
about Michael the Nerd?
Again, feel like
Oh,
you just
It's got
said
a
what
ring to
Ryan
it, though.
said, but just a little bit differently.
oh yeah.
Let's enter though the trivia zone.
I'm going to ask you a trivia question here.
Trivia.
Doesn't matter what it is, you have answers.
Zone.
When you ask me those kind of questions, it really pisses me off.
Trivia zone.
Okay, so whenever I see a really bad stat line or a really good stat line, but usually really bad, I go straight to the play index. I want to find out just how bad it is. So, unfortunately, our victim this week is Chubba Purdy, true freshman quarterback for Florida State. Granted, it's a tough situation for him, I understand, and didn't have a full offseason. He was injured for much of the offseason. So, listen, I think he can still be a good player, but he has made history in his first two appearances. It's bad history. So, against Louisville, he was 0 for 9 passing, and only one player has attempted more than 9 passes in a game without a completion since 2000. That's as far back as this database goes. So this is a tough one. I'm gonna have you guys name the player.
Yeah.
But well, you can make a guess in the dark. It would be a miracle. But,
Yeah. No, I don't have a clue here. That's tough.
okay, so this player was 0 for 10 passing in that game. It was 2005, and he played for Cal. I can give you a hint if
Aaron
you,
Rodgers.
No.
That would have been crazy.
I mean,
That would have
I
been
thought he was
crazy.
around that time.
What about 2005? Probably a little before. Kyle Buller, I think, was a little before.
That's a good guess, but no, not Kyle Buller. This player did not make the NFL. He does hold a Guinness World Record, or at least he did in 2012. He broke the record for the longest flight with a paper airplane, which I remember this story when I read it
do
in
not.
Wikipedia. And he was, another hint, he was a JUCO transfer.
Yeah,
I believe he came in
Aaron
after
Rodgers?
Nate Longshore got injured.
Ooh, Nate Longshore.
All right, you want me to just tell you? You
I
want the
mean, I
initials?
can't think of it.
Yeah, give me initials.
J.A.
Adonde.
No.
No.
Ayub.
Yes.
Wow. Josh Ayub?
Jacob?
No.
Jacob Ayub?
No.
It's not Jacob Ayub? I don't know. Then.
Jason? I don't know.
Sounded
Joe.
familiar.
Joe.
Joe.
Yeah.
Dang.
So there you go. Joe Ayub. He was 0 for 10. So that's the only
Wow.
player to have done worse there. And I don't know if I mentioned it, but it was against Sacramento State.
Ooh.
Okay. So
Nothing to do against.
yeah, not a good team to do it against at
Yeah,
all.
wasn't against like Stanford or something.
But yeah.
No, although neither is Louisville to do it against for Chubba Purdy.
Well,
Okay.
Yeah.
So, second appearance for Purdy, again made history. It was this past weekend against Pitt. He had 12 completions for 38 yards. And I thought, wow, that's not a lot of yards for that many completions. So, it is in fact the fewest
Whoa.
anyone has ever thrown for with at least 12 completions since the year 2000, but possibly ever. That's just all. the
even
data
Art
goes back to.
Sitkowski, really.
Art Sitkowski probably didn't reach 12 completions too many
That's the
times.
problem.
A lot of 7 for 19s from Art.
And they don't count interceptions as completions, so
No, exactly. Good point.
Got
Trey.
it. Okay.
So anyway,
gotcha.
So but right behind him on the list, there's actually a lot of notable players. So again, he could still turn out just fine. But the previous record holder was 2002 Virginia.
Smash Job.
Matt Schaub, exactly. So he had the record, 12 completions, 43 yards.
Wow. Hey, there you go. Long NFL career there.
Check down.
Mm-hmm. Okay, 2018 Utah State.
Chucky Keaton.
Chucky Keaton?
Mm-mm.
Oh, Jordan Love?
Yeah, Jordan Love,
Oh, duh.
53 yards.
God,
2013 Texas.
Not
Ooh.
McCoy. Or was it Case
Was it
McCoy?
not? Case
Case
McCoy, exactly.
Wow.
12 completions for 54 yards for Case McCoy. 2015 BYU.
Max Hall? Or no? No, Max
No.
Brown? No.
No,
Maybe
what
not.
Not Max
about
Brown.
what
Didn't he go to
about
BYU?
No.
was it Taysom
I know
Hill?
USC. Oh yeah, USC and Pitt.
What's that? Sorry.
Taysom
Not
Hill?
Taysom Hill. No, this guy was there forever.
Oh, Mangum.
Yeah, Tanner Mangum.
Tanner
Yeah.
Mangum.
All
Wait,
right.
there has to be some
2014
connection with Max Brown to BYU. Did he originally commit there, or
I think you're thinking of. Well, maybe you're just thinking of Max Hall.
maybe?
Uh,
Maybe. I probably am.
Max
Yeah,
Brown.
Some connection.
Was there another Brown at BYU?
Not
don't
that
know.
I can remember. Our
right,
siblings.
Jake Browning beat BYU. I remember that.
There you go. That must have been it. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Or no,
sorry.
I remember there was that game like Washington BYU, and I think Jake Browning like threw the football and they flagged him after he celebrated a touchdown, and then they missed the extra point to win, something like that. Anyway,
Hmm.
that's a side story there. 2014 Texas. Your hint. Well, I can give you a hint that'll give it to you.
Was it
Tyrone Swoops.
Swopes?
Yeah, Tyrone Swoop.
That was in my head. Yeah, nice.
Good
Texas
job.
is
He had-
back, folks.
All right.
couple
2016
years
North
later.
Carolina.
Oh,
Joe
Mitch
Day. Oh, and
Trubisky.
that was later.
Mitch Trubisky, exactly, Ryan.
Yeah.
All right, last one. 2003 Missouri.
Brad Smith.
Yeah.
Brad Smith. Yeah, he
Yeah.
had 12 completions for
Good
62 yards.
Good names.
Yeah, so I
Those
mean, I
are
chose
some
the
good
best names
names.
from the list,
Right?
but
Schaub, Trubisky, Brad Smith,
Jordan Love.
Jordan Love, like NFL guys.
There you go. Okay, let's.
That's a
let's move
surprising
on.
stat, actually, when you think about it. How many of those guys ended up in the pros?
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, that's surprising.
Well, like I said, I skipped the guys that I had never heard of. So,
Oh, sorry, I
but
missed
either
that
way.
part.
let's go to week 11, make our picks here, and unfortunately, we got a lot of postponed or canceled games. So Auburn at Mississippi State. Both teams are actually having some COVID issues. Alabama at LSU was canceled because of LSU. Texas A&M at Tennessee. It was A&M, right? That's having the issues.
Yeah.
Memphis at Navy because of Navy. And then finally Air Force at Wyoming Air Force having the issues. Games in jeopardy. Cal at ASU. Cal is just Berkeley's has some strict protocols as far as contact tracing. So they're in jeopardy of missing their first two games here. Utah at UCLA could be canceled. Utah, they had to miss last week, of course. They actually had a player hospitalized, so they've had
They
a lot of
moved the
struggles.
game too.
Yeah.
They moved it from Friday to Saturday to give them an extra day.
Mm-hmm. And then Georgia at Missouri is also in jeopardy because of Missouri, I believe. Yeah. Anyway, there could be some we missed there, but just keep that in
Yeah.
mind. This, unfortunately,
SEC
with the,
got ravaged this weekend.
it did. Pac-12 has been ravaged as well, so it's threatening the season right now. This spike, unfortunately, it's hitting college football as well. So hopefully that turns around. But we got Maction tomorrow. Well, as you listen to this, probably today. So Trey,
Yeah.
Wednesday night Maction. What's the one game that people should be watching?
Well, so Wednesday, all of the West teams play each other, but this one's easy. One of the biggest MAC games of the year. Toledo plays at Western Michigan. The winner is in the driver's seat along with Central Michigan in that division. But Western Michigan probably has the slight edge, especially since it's at home. But it's a good quarterback battle. Caleb Ellaby was efficient in week 1. Toledo is led by their veteran quarterback, Eli Peters. He had a 4-touchdown game last week. This is a game I'm really looking forward to watching.
All righty. Let's move on to the SEC. We've got 3 double-digit underdogs here to choose from. You've got to pick one of them to win outright. So who are you taking between Arkansas at Florida? Florida's favored 17.5. Georgia favored 13.5 at Missouri. And then Vandy at Kentucky. Kentucky's favored 17. I'll go first. My choice actually is I'm going to take, if the game happens, I'm going to take Missouri over Georgia as the most likely one, just because who the hell knows who Georgia is going to be starting at quarterback. and they just, like we said, pretty much had their goals ended for the season realistically. And Missouri's got a decent defense, so they could keep this thing low scoring.
Yeah, that was my two. We saw Georgia play up against a team like Kentucky a week ago, and they just, it was like 14-3 ball game. Georgia, I just don't feel confident to blow anybody out, unless they're playing, some FCS team maybe. But against a decent team like Mizzou, Connor Bazelak has had some strong moments so far this year as a freshman. He looks to be a promising player at quarterback for Mizzou. They had a week off, Missouri, so they had some time to prepare here. I'm with you. I think just Mizzou would have probably the best shot of those bunch.
I agree with you guys. I kind of like Missouri. I think Eli Drinkowitz is he's got a chance to do something there. But just to go a little different, maybe Florida's going to be in a letdown spot against Arkansas. They finally slayed the Georgia Dragon. They now feel in control of the East. But, Felipe Franks in a little revenge game against his old Gators. Yeah. I think the Razorback offense should be able to move the ball pretty well in the Gator defense. Traylon Smith and Rakeem Boyd on the ground. Treylon Burks on the outside. They've got some players to at least give Florida a scare.
They won't have Pittman in this one.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, Sam Pittman out with COVID. But yeah, Arkansas has been beating point spreads all year. So
yeah, they seem to play right at the level of their competition pretty much this year. So I could see that.
Okay. And Kentucky, as far as to make the case for Vanderbilt, I know Vanderbilt's having a really, really rough season, but Kentucky's had issues themselves at quarterback. We don't know if Terry Wilson or Joey Gatewood's going to get the start on Saturday, but
doesn't really matter.
Yeah, been great.
Yeah.
Okay, let's get to our first big game here. Honestly, kind of not the greatest slate here. We were spoiled last week with a lot of really good games. But our first one here is Miami at Virginia Tech. Virginia Tech is favored 2, Ryan.
Yeah. It's kind of a little surprising that Virginia Tech, if you just kind of look off last week, right? Virginia Tech loses a home game to Liberty, and then now they're favorites against Miami squad here. I like Miami. I'm going to take those 2 points when you got De'Aaron King, who is just like carrying Miami. He was awesome against NC State last week. That was on a Friday night. He just carried them. He was doing everything. I'm not going to go against him. And I don't trust Virginia Tech's defense. Obviously they gave up 38 to Liberty, and they've just been giving up plays left and right. So, and Miami, while their defense hasn't been up to par as what we're used to, I do think that they're have enough talent on that side to maybe come up with a few stops. So I'm not going against De'Aaron King. So that's really what it comes down to.
I do love De'Aaron King, but I feel like a lot of people are going to look at this and we'll take Miami, kind of one of those odd spreads. I'm going to take the Hokies. Miami, they're 6-1, but they flirted with a couple losses. They had to make the big comeback last week against NC State. Looked kind of bleak there for a moment. And then the week before, they squeaked one out against Virginia at home. They still might be without their star tight end, Brevin Jordan. But I agree, De'Aaron King should have a field day against that Hokie defense. But the Hokies, they still have Hendon Hooker. He can run. They got Blackshear because Khalil Herbert is questionable. But I think the Hokies could win a shootout.
I agree. I think it could be a shootout. I love Virginia Tech's offense. No problem on that side of the ball with the way that offensive line is blocking and Hendon Hooker is running, and they're not passing the ball a lot, but they haven't really needed to. The one thing that I guess gives me cause for pause is that defense, Ryan, that you brought up. It's been a rough season. It's really, honestly, Justin Fuente, at least on the field this year, I think is probably getting a bad rap. I know off the field and recruiting and, just personality wise with the Virginia Tech fan base, it seems like it's not working out, but on the field, I think he's actually done a pretty reasonable. They're 4-2 in the ACC. They've had COVID issues have hit them harder than just about anybody, especially in the secondary. They've had injuries. They're just playing. I think they're down to they're playing like 3 or 4 safeties, at once, just because they don't have the depth at corner right now. So defense is a struggle, but I'll say they win in a shootout. Oregon -10 at Washington State. And Washington State, Trey, you mentioned barely had enough players to play last week at Oregon State. So hopefully they're in a better situation this week. But still got a good win with the true freshman quarterback you brought up, who ran the run and gun, or the run and gun, the run and shoot offense.
Similar.
Yeah, whatever. Close enough in high school. But I just think Oregon is a much bigger test for a true freshman quarterback. Oregon State's defense, arguably, probably Arizona's defense, but they're one of the worst in the Pac-12. So
yeah,
if Oregon can show up to this game and their defense can live up to the hype, I guess, unlike it did last week, then I think the Oregon offense with Joe Moorhead is good enough to win by margin. So that's why I'm taking Oregon.
I'm gonna go the other way. I'm gonna take the Cougs. I wasn't all that impressed with Oregon last week. Their offense was somewhat efficient. The defense was leaky against a very below average quarterback. I just didn't think they really performed all that well. Jet Toner, obviously, we mentioned, missed 4 field goals. That game should have been a nail biter. It should have come down to that. And then I think if it was, I think Michael might be singing a different tune right now. Meanwhile, I like what I saw.
Put me on blast, man.
Well, yeah, just
I'm just results oriented, Michael. No, you're right to an extent. The defense, the defense did not play well, other than in the red zone, which I don't know if you can count on continuing. So that's a concern.
Yep. So, anyways, yeah, I liked what I saw from the Cougs, given that they were missing so many people. They took care of business on the road, and I like we kind of talked about before the year. I mean, Oregon State is not what they were a couple years ago. They're not absolutely terrible. Jonathan Smith has turned that program around, and they're a decent team. So going to win at the Beavers isn't a bad win at all. So I think in Pullman, Oregon's going to be challenged here. I think this is going to be a tough one for them. They have a lot of new pieces too that they're going to be facing. So I think with that, I'll take happily those 10 points. Pullman, they're going to be ready to go.
I'm going to take the Cougs too, but I mean, the Ducks are the classier team. And they'll probably win. Yeah. But I liked what I saw out of Delora, and I think the Cougs can keep it inside the number, maybe a backdoor cover.
Okay, Wisconsin is -4 at Michigan. Trey, good luck breaking down this game.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to take the Badgers. Obviously, they're going to have some COVID rust and maybe some depth issues. It appears Graham Mertz should be able to go under center. It's not like official, but it seems promising. But last year, Wisconsin, obviously they're a different team, not full strength, but Wisconsin went up 35-0 on Michigan before Michigan scored a couple touchdowns. I'm not saying that, but I think they'll beat the Wolverines. Wisconsin, they were a little vulnerable against the run in their one and only game, but Michigan last week was only able to muster 13 rushing yards against Indiana. So they're not jamming it down people's throat. I guess they did well against Minnesota, but we saw how bad Minnesota's defense was. But anyways, I trust the Badger defense to slow down the Wolverines and Milton. And then on the other side of the ball, Indiana put up 460 yards on Don Brown's defense. So I think the Badgers will be licking their chops.
Yeah, per SP Plus, this Wisconsin should be about a 9-point favorite. Obviously, it doesn't take into account all the players they could be missing and the fact that they've missed, of course, a lot of practice. But it's still just so hard to bet against Wisconsin here. The way they looked, I know it was against Illinois, but Graham Mertz 20 for 21, and I'm with you. I think he will play here. I mean, he's going to be available. They said it's just a question of if he's, gets in enough practice that they think he's the best option. And I mean, this is such a big game. It's like if he is literally available, I feel like you got to play him. That's my thought.
Yeah, I agree. The unknown obviously makes you a little bit worried to take the Badgers, but if you just kind of wash that out of your brain, like, man, the Wisconsin only a 4-point favorite against a struggling Michigan team, it seems kind of like a no-brainer. So yeah, I'm taking the Badgers too.
Okay, Northwestern -3 at Purdue. What do you think, Ryan?
Yeah, it's a big game here for the Big Ten West. The winner will have a leg up in the conference. They'll, Northwestern sitting at 3-0, Purdue sitting at 2-0. We don't still know the status of Rondale Moore. He might play, but we don't know. Jeff Brom's been keeping it very, very close to vest on that one.
Yeah,
so
I wouldn't count on it. I don't know.
Yeah, hopefully. I wouldn't count on it. But Milton Wright has stepped up kind of in his place. He's been looking good. They churn him out, man. Jeff Brom, man, he just knows what he's doing with those receivers. And of course, you got David Bell, who's a stud on the other side. So they're still got weapons, even if Rondale Moore doesn't play. That would just be icing on the cake. And of course, Aiden O'Connell, I think he's looked pretty good in his first 2 games. So their offense is doing pretty well. And Northwestern, flip side, I mean, they played Nebraska last week. Nebraska should have won that game. They had so many opportunities to score. They just did, they just whatever choked once they got to the red zone. Just not impressed with their offense, Northwestern's offense. I think the difference in those 2 offenses is too great for me. So I'll take the better offensive team at home. I trust them a little bit more. So give me Purdue.
Gonna lock it in? You gonna lock it in?
No.
Okay. Northwestern, though, I agree with what you're saying. Northwestern has a way of uglying up a game with that great defense. The offense, like you said, it leaves something to be desired. They should have at least some success, though, against a middle-of-the-road Purdue defense. But all that said, I trust Jeff Brom. Purdue's one of those teams this year that I just think they're poised for this big turnaround. They've looked good through the first couple games. A win here. They're right next to Wisconsin for that Big Ten West champ crowning. I like Aiden O'Connell, what he's shown this year so far. I think they're going to make a few more plays against Patty Fisher and that Northwestern defense. So I'm going to take the points at home with the Boilermakers, and I'm going to lock them in. My lock of the week.
That's right.
All right. Yeah, their game against Wisconsin last week got canceled, so they've pretty much had a bye week here to prepare for Northwestern. They also might be getting George Karlaftis back from injury. That'd be huge. Obviously, he's such a big part of that defense. Man, if they got both him and Rondale Moore back this weekend, that would probably shift the point spread a little bit. But yeah, I just think 3 points is really valuable against a Northwestern team, Trey, that you brought up. Just uglies up games. Like Northwestern might win, but they could easily win by 1, 2, or 3 points. And I think Purdue's definitely a live dog. So I'm with you. I'm going to make Purdue my lock.
Yes. Let's
We
go.
could have made it a triple lock, Ryan. It's never.
I just really thought about it,
happened.
but I'm going somewhere else now.
Okay. Well, let's get to the rest of the big games this week with our honorable mentions.
All right. I'm going to lead us off. We got Indiana is given 7.5 at Michigan State. This is gross, but I'm going to take the points with Sparty. Last week, they got absolutely trucked by Iowa, but Michigan State had 3 turnovers, led to some short field touchdowns. They also gave up a punt return. Iowa has a much better defense than the Hoosiers. So the Hoosiers, they're flying high after their wins recently. It's going to be tough to watch that Sparty offense, but I think the defense can slow down Penix just enough to get the cover. Cal at Arizona State. The Sun Devils are given 4.5. Some good storylines here. I'm curious to see how the Sun Devils bounce back after that tough loss we talked about earlier at SC. If they play like that, I think they should beat Cal. Cal has some question marks with COVID, of course, players out. We weren't able to see them, of course. So they're a big wild card. I want to see Chase Garbers in the new offense. It's a big system shift, it seems. Is he going to adapt to it? Will the defense take a regression like most people are kind of thinking, or is Wilcox going to sprinkle some of that defensive magic?
I'm not thinking it. I'm bullish on the Cal defense.
Okay.
Yeah, you
okay.
are.
There's to me, there's just a lot of questions. So I'm going to take the ASU team that I saw on Saturday almost beat the Trojans. That's really tough. Ohio State given 25 at Maryland. Talia Tagovailoa has been one of the best stories the last few weeks. The Terps shocking upset. That was amazing to see against Penn State, and they're playing with confidence. But the Buckeyes are the big guy on the block. After going through the motions in their game against Rutgers, I think they'll be sharp. They're going to want to quiet down the Terps. I'm going to lay the points with the Buckeyes. I just don't see Maryland being able to stop them. And then finally, Hawaii is taking on San Diego State. The Aztecs are given 11. I'm going to take the points with Hawaii. Cordero has been a little inconsistent at quarterback, but he had a huge game last week, threw for over 400 yards. He's also a capable runner, and they're going to need his dual threat ability against that very good Aztec defense. If the Aztecs want to roll here, they can't afford to turn the ball over. They coughed it up 3 times last week. I trust their defense to make enough stops, but can the offense help them out? I think that Cordero and the Rainbow Warriors will get a backdoor cover here. All
righty. Notre Dame minus 13.5 at Boston College. I'll go with the Fighting Irish here. Other than that Louisville game, which had weird weather, limited possessions, they've won by double digits against all of the lesser teams they've played. So they bring it pretty much every week. I'll be interested to see though. Phil Dracovic, obviously having a great season, former Notre Dame quarterback, going up against his old team. SMU at Tulsa. Tulsa's favored 2.5. They are quietly 3-0 in the AAC with including a win over UCF. But I'm going to go with SMU here, even without his top receiver, Reggie Robertson. I thought that was going to really slow down this offense, and it hasn't. The last couple of games, they've put up big numbers. So I'm going to bet on Shane Buechele getting a couple points, 2.5 actually. USC is -14 at Arizona. That's a lot of points for me to give with this USC defense that seems to have the same issues as last year with tackling. And I think Arizona with Grant Gunnell is actually going to be possibly a bigger test for USC's defense than even Jaden Daniels was. Jaden Daniels was not sharp passing the ball at all. I mean, maybe USC's defense had something to do with that, and the fact that he was missing Frank Darby, his top weapon. So I think Arizona could be a bigger threat. So I will take the points with Arizona. And then Colorado at Stanford. Stanford's favored 7. Great first game for Carl Durrell at Colorado, beating UCLA. But they did win the turnover battle in that game 4-0. It's, of course, a tough thing to count on moving forward. And we've talked about Stanford, it seems like a bunch this episode. If they just could friggin' convert in the red zone, they would have really been in that game against Oregon. So whether it's Davis Mills or Jack West, the backup, who played well last week, I think they'll get the cover.
All right, let's go with my games here. My first game was Texas A&M and Tennessee, which got postponed. So second game, Penn State at Nebraska. Penn State's favored 3. 2 teams fighting to stay out of the cellar of the conference here. Who knows what's going on with Penn State at the situation? There's no reason for them to be this bad. They still have talent, so it's just really weird.
Yeah, and the first 2 games they played fine.
I know.
Still 0-2, but they played fine.
Exactly. Yeah, that last game was just a mind boggler. But anyways, I think going up against a Nebraska team that really doesn't pose much of a threat offensively may help them kind of get their confidence back. And I don't trust Nebraska's defense to slow down really anybody a ton. So I think Penn State will win this one. What?
I'm anticipating something right now.
No, I'm not going to make it my lock. But
okay.
Yeah, I thought about it, but
and then he's gonna trick us. Nebraska is his lock.
Oh God! Oh, no way! I'm never gonna lock them on that side. Yeah. So Penn State there. My next game, Wake Forest at North Carolina. North Carolina's favored 13.5. UNC responded pretty well last week and they destroyed Duke. It wasn't even close. But Wake's the team that's coming in hot here. They won 4 in a row. Sam Hartman has been playing really, really well. They got another weapon on the outside that stepped up, Corey Roberson. And now they got to pair him with Donovan Green. Wake's got a good little duo to work with there. I think Wake can keep pace here with Sam Howell. I think this will be a high-scoring game. So I will take Wake Forest. And my last game, my last game here, I got Oregon State at UW. UW's favored 13.5. It's the nightcap. This game is at 11 o'clock Eastern time, so we get ourselves a nice Pac-12 after dark game. Unfortunately, UW didn't get to play last week against Cal, which we all were really looking forward to. So this will be UW's first game. And as Joel pointed out in our Discord, our fellow patron, if you look back at history, teams that haven't played a game actually have an advantage over teams that have already played. So this getting out the jitters, so to say, doesn't actually pay dividends. It's better to not have played.
I blocked Joel, so I didn't see that. But that's that. It kind of makes some sense because there's no film to go off of. I guess.
Yeah. I guess that's what it is. But you go back over a long period, a ton of data. Data doesn't lie, right? So that's the way it is. So I'm going to go with UW. After Oregon State a little bit struggled with the Cougs last week, I'm going to take UW. I'm going to make UW my lock.
All righty. There you have it, week 11. Let's close out the episode, as always, with a questionable finish. James Stefanow, kicker for Colorado and the oldest player in college football at Brian's age of 33, decided to retire what's something you're currently way too old to do?
Well, I mean, I kind of had this realization last year when I was playing basketball with my high school kids that I coach. I'm kind of just getting too old to play with them nowadays.
Ooh.
Like I am just running out of juice, man. I go and try to drive in the paint, and normally, back in the day I could jump and kind of do a crazy finish around the rim, but I just got nothing. Like I go in and and I'm running out of gas real early. I just can't keep up anymore. I just really can't.
Wow.
Yeah.
I am way too old to hate bedtime, but I hate bedtime. I don't want to go to sleep every night. I don't want to go to sleep, but
Yeah, I hear you.
got to do it.
You don't want to be on your phone. You want to be doing something.
Yeah, exactly.
I hear you on that. I'm way too old to be eating the mass amount of Halloween candy that I've been having and intaking all this amount of sugar since Halloween. It has to be taking a bigger toll on my body now than it was 20 years ago.
What's your favorite Halloween candy?
Don't say Kit Kat. Don't say Kit Kat.
No, so it's
good.
not Kit Kat. Kit Kat is good though. Chocolate, I think I go Reese's peanut butter cups.
Yeah, classic.
Candy, I love Sour Patch Kids.
Yeah,
Okay.
same here.
Yeah.
Good choices.
Yeah.
Okay, ESPN announced that much of Bill Connolly's writing will soon be going behind the ESPN Plus paywall. What's a monthly subscription that you have that's totally worth it, and what's one that you're considering cutting?
Worth it, Amazon Prime. I guess that might be annual, but whatever. It's the shipping and returns alone is great. But we use the Prime Music and Prime Video. It's awesome. One I'm considering cutting. I haven't fully considered it yet, but as more and more stuff goes to streaming, I might cut cable. I mainly have it for the live sports and the ease of DVR and whatnot, but a lot of stuff is transitioning, and it seems like it's just a matter of time before the technology improves there.
I know the problem is then you're like Ryan in our Discord. Hey everybody, could you wait 40 seconds to call out?
That's
Yeah,
why I'm not there
pretty
yet.
Ryan.
I'm not there yet. I can't do it yet.
I didn't ask you to wait. I just said I'm behind.
You did. Okay. You asked me to wait.
Well, maybe if it's in the Nebraska game, but
No, there was another game that I promise you.
okay.
All right. Well, anyway, for me, what is worth it is if you're watching YouTube right now, this is coming to you via StreamYard, which is just a subscription service that does video podcasting. We did our live streams on the weekends during game day. So they're great. One I'm considering cutting is The Athletic. And it's nothing against The Athletic. They're great, but usually when I find articles I want to read from The Athletic, it's on Twitter. I'll just be scrolling my Twitter app and, oh, there's an article, boom. But the Twitter browser does not remember my username and password, so I would have to go type it in every time. It's just a mess. So I'm not getting good use.
Yeah, I hear you. Well, Trey said Amazon, which is obviously Amazon Prime's good because then you can watch Amazon TV and Amazon Prime TV as well. That's pretty good stuff. Spotify, we have Spotify, which is pretty good. So that works. You also kind of get Hulu with that. So that works out pretty good. But one I actually don't have that I'm probably going to get here pretty soon. I guess it's like Trey said, this one's not a monthly one, but Costco. I'm not a Costco member, and there's one like 2 miles from me, so it really makes sense. I gotta do that.
I like Costco.
Get a Costco card. As far as getting rid of something, I cut the cord. I got rid of cable about 6 months ago, so I already mentioned that, but it just kind of made sense, especially when sports were just not even going on. It's like, man, what am I doing? So I'm saving about over $100 a month or so with that, so that helps. But I guess otherwise, like, so I would probably go with like a car insurance on one of my cars because we have, my
You're gonna
wife
cut car insurance?
What?
You're just gonna go without it?
Listen. We have 2 cars.
Okay.
We never drive now. There's no reason to drive, so we can really just get it to one car, and we'll just use that one car.
Okay, so you're just gonna leave with the car sitting there?
Yeah, we'll just leave with the other cars sitting there for a while. Like with Geico, they're so flexible with like you can just cut coverage for like, hey, I'm gonna take it off. So they'll kind of refund you for whatever you don't use. Or
is that legal? Can you do that? I guess if you're not driving it. I don't know.
Yeah, if you're not driving it, I mean, I wouldn't think you would need to. I'll just say, hey, I don't need the coverage anymore. So what are they gonna do?
I don't know.
I've used Geico a lot. They're
really
flexible.
a questionable finish.
They'll pay you retro for what you didn't use. So just hey,
All right.
we only need one car right now. We hardly ever drive.
By the way, when I was talking over Ryan earlier, I was complaining about the Athletic being super expensive, obviously, sarcastically. It's a very, very good deal. Anyway, upset special time. You got to pick a 7+ point underdog to win outright. Last week, I hit Liberty over Virginia Tech as
Very good.
like a 2
Very
touchdown
We
underdog.
took that real early. I wanted that one too.
I know we have a text thread where we reserve the
Yeah, I was
upset
going to go with
special.
that one.
I got there early to that one.
It was-
I was
This
guys.
week-
yeah.
Yeah, this week I'm taking Arizona against USC. I know USC's offense should have an easier go of it against Arizona. Did I say Arizona twice there?
Yeah, you mentioned Arizona.
I don't know what's going on anymore.
You were
but-
fine. Just
Okay, I think I did say it right. USC's offense should have an easier go of it. But I really like Grant Gunnell. I think that the Arizona offense could give USC some trouble.
I'm going to say, Ryan, you mentioned it earlier. I'm going to take Wake Forest. They're getting 13.5 at the Tar Heels. Dave Clawson quietly has Wake 4-2. They've won 4 in a row, convincing fashion. Only losses to Clemson and a nail biter at NC State when they had Devin Leary. Sam Hartman, Kenneth Walker, they can get it done.
yeah, Wake's been good, man. Their win total, I think they already might have matched it or something for this year. Really close. They just keep underrating Dave Clawson. Keep doing it. Right? He's awesome.
Mhm.
I'm going to take the Cougs. They're getting 10 against the Ducks. You can see some magic sometimes up there on the Palouse. And Rolovich, man, Rolovich is a good coach. I'm high on him. So I can see the Cougs, Jaden DeLora, getting some guys back. Maybe hopefully Borgie is ready to go in this game. If they get some of those guys back, the Cougs have a real chance.
All righty. Thanks for listening to the College Football Bros podcast.
Football Bros, what?
What's going on? Anyway,
Podcast?
hey, listen, if you watch on YouTube, make sure to give us a thumbs up. Even if you don't, go onto YouTube, give us a thumbs up, subscribe, helps people find the show. If you watch us on YouTube, subscribe in your podcast app. Same reason. So really appreciate that. Check us out on Patreon, patreon.com/collegefootballbros. There's a ton of bonus episodes up there, and you get to join our Discord, which we talked about a little bit in the podcast. We could use a replacement for Joel because he's not a big fan.
He's a know-it-all.
We're
Nobody
cutting
likes a
that
know-it-all.
cord.
Yes, I agree with everything you said. So thanks for listening again. We'll talk to you next week.
You've been listening to the College Football Bros. If you have any questions for the next podcast, email them to collegefootballbros@gmail.com. To keep up with the brothers on social media, like them on Facebook at College Football Bros, follow them on Instagram at College Football Bros, and for their commentary on Saturdays, follow them on Twitter at CFB Bros. Thanks for listening.